Okay, so nobody told me that Firefox had a developers edition browser. Not only a browser for developers like you and me, but it has DevTools specifically for us that, I'm sorry, blows anything that you're going to find away in Google Chrome or Edge or any of the other browsers, and that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to go over the Firefox Developers Edition. Now, like many of you developers, you're probably watching this video, you've probably set in your ways and been using Google Chrome for a long time, or maybe you work on a team where you're kind of expected to use Chrome. Well, I'm here to tell you today that I'm just going to do a comprehensive overview. We're going to walk through the Chrome tools and the Dev tools to kind of see what you're missing out on and kind of see some of the new features that they've added in here. For you guys who use Firefox on a normal basis, you're going to probably want to switch to using the Developers Edition, because the Developers Edition is always 12 weeks ahead of the normal release of the regular Firefox browser. Has all the latest and newest features, has all the experimental features, plus they've geared this thing up to be faster and to handle RAM and CPU usage like a pro, like it's supposed to be. Okay, so this is the Mozilla Developers Edition browser with Developers Edition DevTools. As you can see, it's pretty awesome. They've got a lot of features that, I'm sorry to say, just outdo Google Chrome altogether. Now, Google Chrome, keep in mind, does have some good tools, and I think Google Chrome is more geared for page load, speed times, querying data, and getting more stuff with the back end. They have a lot of really good tools for that, but so does Firefox. And the thing is we can integrate like the Lighthouse, which is used on Google Chrome, with a plugin to Firefox, and we can get everything Google Chrome has plus more on here. I'm sorry, but the master CSS grid, the font panels, they're awesome, and we're going to take a look at these in a minute. The networking tools, I mean, it's got a different feel, and they kind of divide things up differently than in Chrome tools. But we got visual editing, which is really super cool, and we got some really cool stuff with the performance editing, and style editor is just way better than Google Chrome. I'm sorry, but the master CSS grid, the font panels, they're awesome, and we're going to take a look at these in a minute. The networking tools, I mean, it's got a different feel, and they kind of divide things up differently than in Chrome tools. But we got visual editing, which is really super cool, and we got some really cool stuff with the performance editing, and style editor is just way better than Google Chrome. We're going to look at some animations on this loading.io pure CSS loaders. We're going to check out Twitter, and we're going to check out YouTube so we can get some other animation and video and see some other really cool stuff on here. So these are the sites that we're going to check out, and we're going to see what these tools can do for us and what they actually offer. So first of all, let's go to check this out. We're on this snapshot site, and the first thing you want to look at is that we have these interactive bubbles that we have here, these text bubbles, these tooltip bubbles. And we have them for Flex and Grid and other CSS properties on Google Chrome as well, but on here we get more interaction with the elements, not only CSS but HTML and JavaScript. These bubbles will tell us different events. We can get CSS properties and elements, and we can get detailed inscriptions and tooltips, plus we're able to interact with them on a level and see exactly where the code's being processed at and where it's being used. And I'll show you a couple examples of that here in just a minute. But if we want to go over here real quick, I've got an example open of Google Chrome tools, and if we look here, this is just YouTube. We got these Flexbox properties, and we can basically highlight which property this is, like over here, and we can turn it on, turn the flex, and it will highlight around it. But one thing you're going to notice, and I'm not going to flip back and forth to Google Chrome too much, is that in comparatively, they don't give us information about the JavaScript. They are only giving us information about the CSS sources and elements. The box model here is pretty weak compared to the one you're about to see. And we've got these, basic color pickers here that hopefully, I guess they don't work. But yeah, I mean, they're just the old box squared up color pickers here. And there we go. I got one to work, which pretty cool. We can select different colors and opacity and depths and save the colors and memory and all that stuff to have them for later. And I'm not saying Google Chrome is bad, but I'm just saying that the features that you're going to find on the developers edition of Firefox are made for developing the front end and have everything you need to develop the models in the back end as well. So let's go ahead and switch back over. Let's go ahead and check this thing out. So on this, we got a couple things here. You're going to see these icons up here. You got to turn these on. I'm going to show you how to do that later. But for now, let's just go over what we got in here. We got the inspector where we can inspect our code. This is where we can actually interact with the code on the page, so we can actually make changes and do cool stuff, where we need it to be at. But we get a lot of tools to interact with this that you're not going to find on Chrome, and we're going to show you these here first. And then we'll step through all the different built-in tools here, and then we'll go over the ones you got to turn on. So for this one, let's go ahead. We got changes highlighted. We got a box model, which is way better. It actually looks like a border. It's a little bit more dynamic, a little bit easier to access, where we've got the inner width and height we can specify. We've got the padding, the border, margin. The box model can't really specify. You can specify the same things, but you get a little bit more control over it in this box model. Like we can, add different displays and all these other things, and we've got a little bit more control when it comes to working with the actual elements inside of our code. We've got the compute it, which computes any variables, any type of programmatic styles that are going on in the background. We have our changes, which we can see how this works here in a little bit on one of our other little demos. Compatibility feature, which is really cool. Now Google Chrome does have accessibility to an extent, but not to the extent that Google Chrome, or I'm sorry, that Firefox Developers Edition actually has. The other cool thing is we can work with fonts right in the page. Now you can see here that we can change our font faces and select different ones, turn them off. We can actually go over here to this. Let's go over here, and we can adjust the size of them. We can specify different line heights, spacing, and we get these interactive tools to kind of gauge what we want it to visually look like in the browser. Now that's one of the things that's really cool is we got these tools so we can visually build our website with the DevTools. And you're going to see in a little while that we actually get some effect to where you'll see I don't have any React plugins here at all either, and you're going to see that this browser actually picks up React and other libraries and kind of gives you a little environment like we're working in VS Code, which I think is pretty cool. But we got a bunch of flexibility. We can make things italic, not italic. So when it comes to text, whether it comes to images, animations, they've got us covered in here. So for one thing, the console, it's just your basic console, just like everywhere else. You got a trash can, and it looks a little bit more sleeker and clean. We can, split the console and iterate over code. We got a debugger, which this is really cool because this gives us our snapshot of our website in here, and this gives us everything that we need to work with. And right here, you can see as I start clicking on these, it's already going to identify them as React scripts instead of just normal JS. And this is what I was talking about. It gives us that feel like we're working in VS Code because I can actually come in here and work on my scripts. If I know that I need something in the nav link to change and I'm trying to debug something, I can work on it right here, change the code, add breakpoints, and just refresh the page, and everything will update right in here, just as if I was working on VS Code. So we get that functionality too. The other cool thing is we get a style editor that separates these concerns and lets us work on our style sheets here. So if you have a global style sheet, or if you're working on Sass, it'll identify that and it'll break it up down here, and we can go through here and actually change the styles. And then we can make all of our changes to our global style sheet instead of going back and forth and back and forth. And then when we're done here, we can copy this and boom, paste it in our file, save it, and load it to GitHub. So it makes the developer experience a lot more fluent and, in my opinion, just a lot better than Google Chrome. Another thing we're going to look at is the performance. Now, the performance metrics on Google, you know, they have Lighthouse, which is pretty much the market cap on, you know, page speed, load times, you know, data polling and querying APIs and just the resources that it takes for your site to load and the server. And Lighthouse is a standard benchmark for all of those things. And we don't get it built into Firefox, but we can add a plugin to get the same features that Google Chrome has, and then we'll have everything that Google Chrome has, plus the developers tools for Firefox, which is just way awesome. I'm not going to go into the performance too much, but we can do a lot of things that we can do in Chrome in here. And like I said, we can add that plugin. We got some memory tools, which is really super cool. That lets us aggregate and group different calls and functionalities in here, so we can see if we're getting any memory leaks. Now, if we go over here to Chrome and check this out real quick, we got some memory tools here as well. I think these are a little bit more proficient. Like I said, Google Chrome is geared for more of your actual, how do I say this? The balls of your website, if you will. It's geared for the back end stuff, for the data. It's made for the interactions and stuff. Whereas the Developers Edition in Firefox, it's more for front end work, plus handling all that other stuff as well. So it depends on what experience you're working with. If you're more of a back end developer, and you know, data persistence and load times and loading different files and APIs and SSLs and all these things, you'll probably just be good sticking with Google Chrome. If I'm going to be honest about it, there's no need to, you know, use the Developers Edition if you're not going to be doing full stack or a lot of front end stuff. But with that being said, if we go back over here real quick, back to the demo, we can see here that we've got our storage, which on Google Chrome we've got what's called applications, and application has everything in it. It has all your storage, like your cache, your cookies, your index, but here we got storage and application, which the application is the server workers and the manifest, if there's one, like you can see here, because it's just a create React app. And we separate those concerns in the browser, which is really cool because I like how they separate everything out. They divide it out. They give us the flexibility, as if though, you know, we're working in an actual IDE, which I think is really cool. And the other thing, which is, I forgot to mention about this, is that if we don't want to, all the plugins that we use in our browser typically load on these snapshots in Google Chrome. We have the flexibility here to turn all that off, and most of the times by default it's not going to bring in your plugins. It's just going to bring in the app on the page that's being rendered. So that's a really cool thing too, because those plugins, they take up resources in your browser and slow it down. Plus it can get really confusing when trying to work back there and know, you know, where your code's at, and you got to dig through a lot of stuff. So it kind of simplifies the whole developer experience, and that's what I'm trying to tell you here. And just so you guys know, I don't work for Firefox. I'm not getting paid by them anyway. I'm just a big fan of their tools, and I thought this would be a great video, especially for new developers that are, you know, getting into the game, because it's important to, you know what tools are good and when you're starting out, so that way you can build a relationship with those tools and use them and get used to them, so you can do your job and, you know, become the best coder that you possibly can. Other than the application, we got a new tool here, a couple of them, that we got to turn on that are not available in Google Chrome at all. And my favorite one, which I'll show you here in a minute, if we go into the settings, we can turn all these ons. And like I said before at the beginning of this video, we get a lot of experimental features in this. It is 12 weeks ahead of the regular Firefox browser. So that means we get the latest and greatest tools. available, the releases that nobody else has yet in this browser, in these DevTools. So we're always going to have the best tools, the best of the best. It's really cool. And there's always things popping up in here, but one of them, which is really cool, is the DOM. We get access to the actual the DOM itself. Well, I know we have it over here, but we can filter all the different properties, functionality of the DOM before things happen in here, and manipulate, pre-manipulate or post-manipulate or mount different types of things in here to see what the DOM is actually providing to help us build things. And you see here, we can see everything that's active in the DOM right now. We can see things that are locked, and we can unlock them, and we can propose events, and we can see how much resources our site's taking up. So this is really cool, and I'm not going to go too in depth explaining this because this would be a whole video in itself, just like trying to troubleshoot using this tool. But there are tools out there. One of them is actually right here, and this is the Firefox DevTools docs. Whether you want to contribute to it or you just want to know everything about the DevTools and the Firefox Developers Edition browser, this is it. This is where you're going to go, and this is where you're going to learn stuff. And I'll leave the links to all these sites in the description below, like I normally would. But let's move on to some different examples. So, Grid, for instance. Grid is really cool because, like, I don't know how to explain this, but the tools we get, the visual tools we get to work with Grid here, just surpass anything Chrome has. The only thing that I complain about is, when I come over here, I would like to be able to add the properties of the grid by clicking that like I do in Chrome, and then it gives us, all the different layouts and to justify and center things. But if you actually know the code, then you can do that here. That would be a really cool feature if we could click that and add the grid properties here and just automatically set them in like Google Chrome does. That'd probably be my only complaint about this. But other than that, we can, go through the different levels of divs, and we can change the variations right here in this grid box, and we can do each layer individually. We can work and highlight different things and manipulate this to get our grid perfect in the way we need to get it. So it's really cool, really handy. Another thing is these up here. We can toggle printing media for the page. We've got dark schemes, bright schemes, and we can add new rules, which is pretty cool. Just by clicking that button, we can toggle different classes and toggle all the subclasses and pseudo classes within them to see what it's going to do for us. So we get a lot of stuff. Here too, we can add new divs, got a color picker. So this inspector I'm sorry, but it's just way more robust than anything Google Chrome's got going on right now. So with that being said, let's go over and check out some animations because you're going to love this. This is really super cool. And let's say we want to pick, I don't know, this guy right here. So let's go over here, pick him, and you see we've got our layout and our box model. We're using Flex. The other thing I forgot to show you is how we have not only these tooltips, but if we click on these, we can see where the queries are actually going to. And this doesn't only work with the events, it works with all the CSS properties too. We have what's called interactivity with the elements on our page, and we can interact with them, see what the code is actually made of, change those little code bits. It's pretty cool. I'll find an example of like a flex or something here in a little bit, and I'll show you how we can get into all the different properties of it. But you can see we can do this for each event, and we can expand, everything that's going on for that specific event, where it's coming from, and how it works. They call this bubbling. And this bubbling technology with what's in these DevTools is just freaking awesome. Now back to our animation. If we go all the way over to here, to our animation, and we select one of them, we can see that we get a totally interactive graphic visual tool to work on our animations, which is freaking awesome. We can actually click on the bubble here like we would do with like a color or something, and we can manipulate them to see which effect we want in real time, that we want to apply, and we can do this with every property that's available in CSS first to use. We can change speed, and we can change all the different factors of it. We can do ease in, ease out, ease in and out. It's pretty cool, and it actually extends back past this. A lot of other dynamic CSS properties like filters, for instance. So let's do a filter, and let's do let's see, blur. Wait, what am I doing here? Let's do filter, opacity. Wait, why is it canceling? Oh, I gotta put a number in here. Let me put a number in here. So, okay, we got opacity here of 1 on a filter. And we've got image filters for everything. And I know that we can't really see what's going on here, but I'm really not trying to show you what's going on here. But we can do this to an image later if you want. But if we click on this, then, you know, we can get in here and we can actually apply all the different filters. And you can see here, we can select different filters, add different filters, layer the filters in different ways. And then we have access to their properties, so we can change and manipulate them to get the exact filters we want for the property and element that we're supposed to change in here. This doesn't exist in Google Chrome. You will not find this. And there's more properties, if you go read the docs, besides filter and animation, where we get these visual graphic tools to use and help us develop, which is just freaking awesome, and I love it. And it's just one of the big selling points for me on this. Other than that, we can stop animations, and we can do whatever we want, basically. And we have full control over all the visual elements within our web app, which is freaking awesome. Let's go and explore a couple more things. So, like, here's one with Flex, and here we can do our image example. I want to show you here. We get the properties that shows us, you know, in the event we're handling an error and how we're handling the load. So that's cool. We're getting some good bubbling there. The Flex properties we can turn on and manipulate in here, and then we can go back over to our layout, and we can turn it on and off, and we can tell whether those elements are, you know, in our flex and how they're lining up. Here, like I said, we can add a filter, you know, and we'll just put opacity into that, put like a 0.5, and we can, you know, put some opacity on it. And if we want to come in here and adjust that, click our little bubble, and we can, you know, manipulate it right here all the way down. And just go ahead and turn that to 0, turn it off, or put it on 100. And we got these interactive tools, which are just freaking boss. They're cool. and it's really cool. We can check the flow routes on how the interactions are flowing between the divs, which is another cool feature. I mean, this thing is like fully loaded, and it's made for us, made for developers. What else do you want? And we get the shapes, the content size, visual graphics, pretty cool stuff. Here's one where we're working with video, which is just really awesome too. So we can get the pop-outs to come up, and we can inspect videos. And if we do this, we can actually get specific properties on the events and on the videos and on the stream, especially in the network tab. You know, there's a lot of stuff we can do to this. Even when it comes to styling,
This is Charlie.
Yeah, that's Charlie, but we can keep hovering over the elements, and we can, you know, manipulate the elements for videos, and change the styles of them very dynamically in here. There's a lot of properties for the HTML player. You see down here, just a lot of stuff. Too much to go over in one video, but I just wanted to point this out to you and make you aware of it. The other thing is, let's go back to our little site right here, this one, the animations. And let's say, well, actually, let's go ahead and go back over to the snapshot site. I know it's a little bit more boring, but let's look at the other new tools that we have turned on. For this one, we can take a screenshot of the entire page whenever we want. So we don't have to press Windows, Shift, S, or use another tool. We can just click in the DevTools, take a screenshot. Boom, done. All right, now let's say we want to toggle rulers for the user page. Well, now we have rulers on the page. And if we go back to the inspector, we can see here that we've got these rulers going on. And let's just go over here. We've got the highlighting on. Let me go ahead and refresh this real quick. So let's go ahead and turn the rulers on. You can see we got rulers on here now, and this is more for your UX people, but for the developers too. Let's say we want to get the exact size of something, or you need to send a screenshot to a partner you're working on, or one of your QA people. We can come right here, and we can highlight anything we need, and we can adjust it, how we want to, and we can actually grab the exact measurements of this element. I know that's kind of bad because this thing's so small, but you can see what I'm saying. We can get the exact images, then we can take a snapshot of it, and then we can send it to whoever we need to. So it kind of automates some of the workflow for us as well too, which is really super cool. And this gives us pixel perfect tools, so that way we can make sure if I want this thing to be 30 by 99, that's what exactly it is. It should be 30 by 100. Now I can go in here and change it. And it does it for all the elements, and we can even select elements and get the measurements from them as well. And of course we got the tools for mobility. We can throttle, we can use different types of phones, and regular 3G throttling. We could use different types of devices to simulate on here, like an iPad, of course. We can create our own. We can do all this on Google Chrome too, and they've got a bunch of presets here, and we can even design our own. We can do for TVs, whatever we want, we can do it. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the developers edition of Firefox, which is just, I could do this video for hours, and we can do a bunch of tests and do a bunch of things, but I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the the best features that I found in this. And I'm serious, if you get into using this and start playing around with it, you're probably going to fall in love with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, and don't forget to share this video with anybody else who might get some value out of it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I appreciate all your views, and I thank you, and I look forward to any of your feedback. If you guys think of anything I could do better, or any topics that you want to hear of, hope you guys liked it. Thank you. Talk to you later.